What if I told you that one of the most successful men in the world once had just $7 to his name? That before the fame, the muscles, and the blockbuster movies, he was a lost young man who had to rebuild from nothing. In today's story, we're diving into the powerful and inspiring life of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, not just to entertain, but to help you learn English through real-life storytelling. This video will help you improve your listening skills, grow your vocabulary, and understand grammar in a way that feels natural and meaningful. With each chapter of Dwayne's journey, you'll pick up new words, useful expressions, and deeper insights into the language. What would you do if your family had just $7 in their bank account, and you had no place to call home? This was the reality for Dwayne Johnson long before he became a world-famous superstar known as The Rock. Before the flashing lights of Hollywood, before the roaring cheers of wrestling fans, Dwayne was just a young boy facing the harsh challenges of life with his family. He wasn't born into fame or fortune. He was born into a family that knew both love and hardship. Dwayne Douglas Johnson was born on May 2, 1972, in Hayward, California. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a professional wrestler. His mother, Ada Johnson, came from a family with strong Samoan roots, rich in culture and tradition. But even with a wrestling father, life wasn't glamorous. Wrestling didn't pay much in those days, especially for someone like Rocky Johnson, who had to travel often, live from paycheck to paycheck, and make sacrifices to support his family. Dwayne's early childhood was full of movement. His family didn't stay in one place for very long. They moved from state to state, and sometimes even from country to country, following his father's wrestling gigs. Each new school meant a new set of challenges. New friends, new teachers, and sometimes new languages or cultures to adjust to. Dwayne felt like an outsider much of the time. It wasn't easy to make friends or feel settled. He often felt like he didn't belong anywhere. When he was just a child, the family moved to New Zealand to live with his mother's relatives for a while. There, he attended Richmond Road Primary School in Grey Lynn. It was his first taste of a different world, a different culture. He learned to speak some Samoan and was surrounded by the warmth of his extended family, but that peaceful time didn't last long. Eventually, the family returned to the United States, and with it came more financial challenges. They lived in small apartments and sometimes didn't know how they'd pay rent. Things got even harder when they settled in Hawaii. Dwayne was a teenager then, trying to find his identity in a world that felt unstable. One day, he came home from school to find a padlock on the door of their apartment. His family had been evicted. Everything they owned was being taken away. Their furniture, their clothes, their memories. Imagine being a teenager and seeing your entire life being thrown into a truck. That was a moment Dwayne would never forget. It was more than just losing a home. It was losing security, comfort, and pride. His mother cried, and he felt helpless. He said later that he hated seeing her in pain, and it made him promise himself. One day, he would never let his family suffer like that again. But change didn't happen overnight. As a teenager, Dwayne often got into trouble. He started hanging out with the wrong crowd and was arrested multiple times for fighting, theft, and getting into trouble at school. He felt angry at the world and didn't understand why life had to be so hard. At the age of 14, Dwayne was already 6 feet tall and weighed over 200 pounds. People thought he was much older than he was. Teachers were afraid of him and students avoided him. At one school, a teacher even mistook him for an undercover cop. It was both funny and sad. He didn't fit in anywhere. Despite the trouble he got into, something changed when he walked into the weight room. For the first time, he found a space where he could release his frustration. Lifting weights gave him a sense of control. Each lift, each drop of sweat, each aching muscle, it gave him purpose. It became his therapy. He trained hard not just for his body, but for his mind. He realized that strength didn't just come from muscles. It came from discipline, focus, and commitment. Even though he made mistakes, there was still something inside him that wanted more. One teacher, Jody Swick, took a chance on him. She saw something different in Dwayne, not just a tough guy, but a young man with potential. She encouraged him to get involved in sports, to think about his future. Another person who made a big difference was his high school football coach. He saw Dwayne's physical talent and his raw energy. He told Dwayne that football could be a way out, a way to rise above poverty and pain. So Dwayne tried out for the football team. At first, it wasn't easy. He wasn't used to being part of a team, but he kept showing up and he kept training. Through hard work, he earned a spot. He began to feel like he had a purpose. The football field became a place where he could shine. He learned about teamwork, strategy, and resilience. It was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Even though the future was still uncertain, one thing had changed. He now believed in himself. That belief would carry him through many more challenges to come. For many English learners, understanding stories like Dwayne's is more than just learning new words. It's about connecting emotionally with the language. It's about seeing how words can paint a picture, share a struggle, and celebrate a victory. As you've listened to this part of Dwayne Johnson's story, think about the vocabulary you've heard. Eviction, struggle, discipline, identity. These aren't just words, they carry emotion and tell you something deeper. The past tense verbs in this story, lived, moved, cried, trained, help you understand when things happened. And they show how someone's past doesn't have to define their future. As you continue listening to the full story, remember that every part of Dwayne's journey teaches us more than English. It teaches us about hope, hard work, and rising again. Let's keep going. Imagine training for years with a single goal in mind, only to have that dream torn away in a matter of seconds. That's what happened to Dwayne Johnson when he pursued football with everything he had. After discovering his strength and discipline through weight training, football became his next great passion. He poured his energy into becoming the best player he could be, driven by the belief that football might be the escape his family desperately needed. High school football opened a new world to him. He was strong, fast, and determined, and soon college scouts started to take notice. He received a full scholarship to the University of Miami, one of the top football programs in the country at the time. This was a massive achievement for someone who had come from such a tough background. He moved to Miami, focused on training and academics, determined not to waste the opportunity. At Miami, he played for the Hurricanes, a powerhouse team with a reputation for producing elite NFL talent. He was surrounded by talented players, including future NFL stars, which pushed him to work even harder. However, his journey at Miami didn't go as planned. Dwayne faced fierce competition for playing time. Injuries slowed him down, and he found himself sitting on the bench more than he wanted. One of the most difficult moments was being replaced by Warren Sapp, a future NFL Hall of Famer. It was a humbling experience. He had worked so hard and sacrificed so much, but it wasn't enough to secure a starting spot. Still, he stayed with the team, always supporting his teammates and pushing himself in every practice. He learned valuable lessons during this time: how to be resilient, how to handle disappointment, and how to keep going even when things don't go your way. These lessons would stay with him for life. After graduating with a degree in criminology and physiology, Dwayne set his sights on playing professional football. He joined the Calgary Stampeders in the Canadian Football League. It wasn't the NFL, but it was still a chance to keep the dream alive. He packed his few belongings, moved to Canada, and joined the team. But life in Canada was far from glamorous. He was far from home, living in a small apartment, sharing space with other players, struggling to make ends meet. Despite his hard work, he was cut from the team just 2 months into the season. The dream he had chased for years came to an end just like that. He was devastated. Alone in a foreign country, out of a job, and unsure what to do next, he felt like a failure. That moment, sitting in his tiny room in Calgary with $7 in his pocket, was a turning point. He had hit rock bottom. He called his dad and asked for a ticket home. When he returned to the United States, he was lost. Everything he had worked for was gone. But what came next was the beginning of something entirely new. His football dream had ended, but it had also built a foundation of mental strength. He had learned how to push through pain, how to fight for something, and how to rise again. These qualities would lead him to his next path, even if he didn't know what it was yet. Sometimes life doesn't take you where you planned. Sometimes it takes you where you're meant to be. For Dwayne, that unexpected path would lead to something far greater than he ever imagined. And for you, as an English learner, his story reminds us that words like discipline, setback, and resilience are not just vocabulary terms, they're life lessons. Understanding them in context helps you remember them deeply. And just like Dwayne, every setback you face in your language journey is preparing you for a stronger comeback. Let's keep learning through his incredible story. How do you rebuild your life when everything you've worked for is gone? That was the question Dwayne Johnson had to face after football ended. He returned to the United States feeling defeated and uncertain. All his dreams of becoming a professional athlete had vanished. He moved back in with his parents in Tampa, Florida. There, in a small room with stained walls and an old mattress on the floor, he spent days wondering what to do next. He had no job, no money, and no clear direction. Every day felt heavy, as if failure was sitting on his chest. It wasn't just about losing football. It was about losing his identity. For years, he had been Dwayne the football player. Now he was just Dwayne, broke, jobless, and unsure of his purpose. He battled depression. It was the lowest point in his life. He would lie on that mattress staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had gone wrong. But even in that darkness, a small spark remained. He remembered the promise he made to his mother, the promise to never let their family suffer again. That promise gave him the strength to stand up again. He began thinking about what else he could do. His father suggested trying professional wrestling. At first, Dwayne wasn't sure. He had watched his father wrestle and knew how hard the business was. Long travel days, physical pain, low pay, it was a tough life. But it was also a chance, a new beginning. Dwayne decided to give it a shot. He started training with his father. Training was intense. His body was already strong from football, but wrestling demanded something different. He had to learn how to fall, how to sell moves, how to work a crowd. It was both physical and theatrical. He trained for hours every day, trying to master the craft. At the same time, he had to learn how to develop a character, someone the audience could love or hate. He made his debut in the WWF in 1996 under the name Rocky Maivia, a tribute to his father and grandfather. But things didn't go as planned. Fans didn't like the smiling, good guy image he was forced to portray. They booed him, chanted "Rocky sucks" during his matches. It was crushing. He had worked so hard only to be rejected again. But this time, Dwayne did something different. He listened. He listened to the fans and what they wanted. He stopped trying to be what others told him to be. He reinvented himself. He became The Rock. This new persona was confident, loud, funny, and bold. He talked trash, raised his eyebrow, and delivered catchphrases that became legendary. The audience loved it. The boos turned into cheers. Dwayne had found his voice both in the ring and in life. He wasn't just performing. He was being himself, amplified and fearless. He rose quickly through the ranks of professional wrestling. Within a few years, he became one of the biggest stars in the WWF. He won championships. He headlined major events. He electrified crowds around the world. The boy who once had $7 to his name was now a global superstar. And he never forgot where he came from. He used his platform to inspire others. For English learners, his journey teaches powerful vocabulary: depression, identity, rejection, reinvention. These words are not just definitions, they're pieces of a life story. By understanding how Dwayne lived them, you can feel their true meaning. And just like him, when life knocks you down, you can stand up, change direction, and become something greater. Let's continue learning through the extraordinary life of The Rock. What happens when a wrestling superstar decides to take on Hollywood? For Dwayne Johnson, it meant starting all over again, but this time on an even bigger stage. By the early 2000s, The Rock was one of the most recognized names in professional wrestling. His charisma, his energy, and his powerful presence made him a household name. But Dwayne wanted more. He wasn't content with just being the king of the wrestling ring. He had another dream: to become a movie star, not just an action hero, but a respected actor. It was a bold move. Many wrestlers had tried to make the jump to Hollywood, but very few had succeeded. Dwayne knew that he would have to prove himself all over again. He couldn't rely on his wrestling fame to carry him. He started with a small role in The Mummy Returns in 2001. It was just a few minutes of screen time, but it caught the audience's attention. His performance led to a bigger opportunity. He landed the lead role in The Scorpion King, a spin-off from the Mummy series. It was his first major film role, and it made headlines. He was paid $5.5, the highest salary ever for an actor in their first starring role. But money wasn't the real prize. For Dwayne, the real win was the chance to prove himself as an actor. He trained hard for the role, studying scripts, working on his delivery, and improving his acting skills. He wanted to be taken seriously. Still, not everyone believed in him. Critics were unsure if he could break away from his wrestling image. Some said he was just muscles with no range. But Dwayne didn't listen to the doubt. He kept working. He took on different types of roles, from action-packed blockbusters to family comedies like The Game Plan. He learned from every experience. With each film, he grew more confident and more skilled. Over time, the audience began to see him differently. He was no longer just The Rock. He was Dwayne Johnson, the actor. His career began to skyrocket. He starred in movies like Fast 5, Jumanji, and San Andreas. He became one of the highest-paid and most beloved actors in Hollywood. But he never lost the work ethic that had brought him there. Every role he took was an opportunity to improve, to connect with audiences, and to inspire others. He often spoke about the importance of being prepared. He said, "When you walk into a room, you don't just walk in. You kick that door down, smile, and introduce yourself." That mindset carried him forward. He was bold, prepared, and passionate. For English learners, this part of his story introduces key vocabulary like audition, breakthrough, criticism, and determination. These words come to life when you see how Dwayne faced each challenge. His journey teaches you more than English. It shows you what it means to dream big and work for it. From the wrestling ring to the red carpet, Dwayne Johnson kept moving forward. And the best part is, he was just getting started. Let's keep learning from his incredible rise. What makes someone more than just famous? What makes them unforgettable? For Dwayne Johnson, it was his ability to evolve and connect with people across generations. As his Hollywood career gained momentum, Dwayne became known for more than just action roles. He chose projects that showed his range and deepened his connection with fans. One of his biggest breakthroughs was joining the Fast and Furious franchise. As Luke Hobbs, he brought intensity, humor, and a strong sense of justice to the screen. His presence helped breathe new life into the series and introduced him to a massive global audience. The chemistry between him and the cast, especially Vin Diesel, made the films even more exciting. Behind the scenes, however, things weren't always smooth. Dwayne's professionalism sometimes clashed with other actors' approaches. Still, he remained focused on the work. He continued to bring his best to every scene, no matter the challenges. His work ethic was unmatched. He would often wake up before sunrise to train for his roles. He memorized scripts, worked with acting coaches, and always showed up prepared. Directors loved working with him. Audiences could feel his dedication. That's why his fan base continued to grow across age groups and cultures. He also started doing more family-friendly films, such as Mona, where he voiced the character Maui. This role let him connect with children and parents alike, and it paid tribute to his own Polynesian heritage. His performance was charming, funny, and heartfelt. The song "You're Welcome" became a favorite among young viewers, and it showed that Dwayne could succeed in yet another genre. He also starred in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, which was both a box office success and a showcase of his comedic timing. It proved he could carry a movie not only with muscles, but with heart and humor. By this point, Dwayne had become more than a celebrity. He was a cultural icon. He wasn't just seen on screen, he was everywhere: social media, interviews, charity events, and motivational talks. He used his platform to spread positivity, resilience, and hard-earned wisdom. He often spoke about gratitude and the power of hard work. He reminded fans that success is never given, it's earned through consistency and effort. Even at the top, Dwayne kept pushing himself to new heights. For English learners, this chapter of his story is filled with powerful words like legacy, perseverance, charisma, and influence. These are more than just terms. They describe what it means to keep growing, even when you've already achieved so much. Dwayne Johnson teaches us that greatness comes from never settling. He didn't stop at wrestling. He didn't stop at acting. He kept asking, what's next? His story is a reminder that the journey never really ends. It just changes shape. Let's continue and see how he used his success to uplift others. What does success mean if you don't use it to help others? For Dwayne Johnson, reaching the top was never just about fame. It was about making an impact. As he built his career, Dwayne began to focus more on giving back. He remembered the pain of having nothing, of watching his mother cry, and of struggling to find hope. Those memories fueled his drive not only to succeed, but to uplift others. He often says that staying grounded is what keeps him strong. Dwayne began sharing his journey more openly on social media. He posted about his workouts, his early morning routines, and the setbacks he still faces. He didn't pretend to be perfect. Instead, he showed people that discipline and determination are more powerful than any obstacle. He became known for his motivational posts, often encouraging his followers to stay focused, be kind, and outwork everyone else. He talked about mental health, about failure, and about starting from the bottom. People connected with his honesty. Beyond words, he took action. He created the Dwayne Johnson Rock Foundation, a charity focused on helping at-risk and terminally ill children. He also supported disaster relief efforts, veterans programs, and education initiatives. He visited children's hospitals, spent time with fans, and never lost the human touch. Whether it was on a film set or in a gym, he treated people with respect. He often said that success isn't about how high you climb, but about how many people you lift up along the way. Dwayne also began speaking to young people across the country. He talked about confidence, goals, and resilience. He reminded them that it's okay to fail as long as you keep moving forward. His words inspired countless individuals to keep chasing their dreams. He embraced the idea that leadership comes through service. He led by example, not by title. His influence grew beyond entertainment. He was named one of Time magazine's most influential people multiple times. He even considered entering politics, not for power, but to create change. Whether he runs or not, it's clear he has become a voice people trust. For English learners, this final chapter offers powerful words: mindset, generosity, integrity, and legacy. These aren't just vocabulary terms, they're values that shape lives. Dwayne Johnson's journey shows us that true greatness lies not in what you earn, but in what you give. He transformed from a young man with $7 to a global icon with unlimited influence. But more importantly, he never forgot who he was. His story is more than a lesson in language. It's a lesson in life. So as you continue learning English, remember, your story matters, your voice matters. And like Dwayne, you have the power to rise, inspire, and leave the world better than you found it. You've just heard the incredible true story of Dwayne Johnson, from humble beginnings to global fame, from heartbreak to hope. Along the way, you didn't just follow his journey. You improved your English, one meaningful sentence at a time. You learned real vocabulary and context, words like resilience, identity, breakthrough, mindset, and saw how they live and breathe in a powerful story. But remember, this is just the beginning. Every time you listen to a story like this, your English gets stronger, your confidence grows, and you get one step closer to fluency. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who's learning English too. Leave a comment below, tell us what part of Dwayne's journey inspired you most, or which new word you'll remember today. Thanks for watching LangFAQ, where we learn English through powerful stories. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and never stop believing in your story.